Do you like listening to stories about serial killers, unsolved mysteries? How about a cult or two? And what about those lesser known serial killers? Or how about the legend of a cryptid that will surely keep you up at night? And I know you'll love a good conspiracy theory, because who doesn't? Join me, Kayla, as my co-host Lexi and I tell you stories that will keep you coming back for more on our show, A Little Wicked. You can find A Little Wicked on Spotify, Apple, and anywhere else you can find podcasts. Check out our website, alittlewickedpodcast.webador.com, and our Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, all under, you guessed it, A Little Wicked. We can't wait to tell you our stories.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Dustin Perry from Ghost Hunters and Ghost Hunters International, and you are tuned into the Paranormally Zone.
Look, I know the supernatural is something that isn't supposed to happen, but it does happen. A ghostly apparition in the dark of night.
Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
Hey there, ponderers of the paranormal. This is the Paranormally Zone, your place for all things paranormal, unexplained, odd, and mysterious, and of course, all of the good times in between. My name is Patrick Koffenberg, and I'm joined, as always, by my co-host with the ghosts. I hate to say this.
I'm sure you do.
The grammatically correct Michael Carbno. The grammatically correct Michael Carbno. Now, if you are new to this program, you are not aware of what I'm referring to when I say the grammatically correct Michael Carbno. On last week's episode, we started off when I was jokingly referring to you as basically grammatically incorrect, and we went because of your insistence to use the awful word "botan." And I want to clarify right now, I still do not accept this as an actual word, but I have been proven
Well, that's your
wrong.
problem.
It is. I have been proven wrong. Botan is indeed a word, regardless of the rant that Mike and I went on last week for, seemingly forever, where I was basically ripping you a new a-hole, saying how awful it was to use that word. But so be it. I am not too arrogant, Mike, to refuse to accept the truth that I was wrong. You were right. Go ahead, rub it in my face.
Well, no, I will not rub it in.
You want
But
to?
hey, Patrick, I do have a question for you, though.
Oh, goodness gracious.
Haven't you ever had store-bought cookies? Sorry.
I have bought cookies from the store. Yeah. I have purchased store-bought cookies. I am sure.
And those, as well as what I said, are grammatically and Oxford Dictionary correct.
Again, I am ashamed of the English language. I will say this. I will never, ever, ever accept the word botan. I am not going to, well, accept is the wrong word. I am never going to utilize the word botan.
That's your choice.
Because
There are certain, I don't use the C word.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, because I never want to get cancer.
No, of course. Oh, well, that too. I will never, ever use it, because just hearing it gives me like the cosmic heebie-jeebies. Something just happens where I feel my spine starts tingling. I want to crumple up in I want to go crawl in the corner and whimper. But Mike, you know what? Chicken is still not a damn word. It never
Absolutely,
will be a
I
word.
agree.
And if you use that in front of me again, I'm going to wash your mouth out with soap.
Yeah.
And then we'll
But
go
I'm
from
going to
there.
change. I'm going to change your name, your last name. I'm going to put the Von back on it, but I'm going to start calling you Patrick Von Bottenberg.
Wow. Wow. Well, just pat yourself on the back for that one, Mike. Just pat yourself on the back.
No, I'm good. I'm very good for coming up with that one.
Man. Well, I guess. Yeah. I don't know. Well, so I guess we kind of split it down the middle. Botten, I was incorrect. Tooken is still an awful, awful, awful invention from your mouth.
Yeah.
And I'm also ashamed because ain't. I was always told that I was taught that ain't a word, but you know what? It is a damn acceptable word nowadays.
Yeah.
And that again, talk about having my just every physical, every ounce of my being, emotional, mental, physical, just wants to stop when I hear stuff like that. But that's okay. It's okay. If you like the word ain't, more power to you. So
Yeah. Well, if you don't want to sound very intelligent, go ahead and use it, right?
Well,
Then we're not ripping on people that use the word.
No, well, yeah, you kind of did.
Well, yeah, but I didn't mean it though. People know my sense of humor.
Yeah, and says the guy who uses the word tooken for God's sakes. So, anyways, got that off of my shoulder. We got that out of the way. Mike, it's good to see you, my friend. We're ready to go. We started a little bit later than we wanted to, but we got an awesome episode lined up tonight.
We do.
And then we're going to finish it off with a Patreon exclusive episode recorded immediately after this one. It's going to be a good night. We're going to be worn out before it's all said and done. So I hope you're up for the long haul.
I believe I am. I've got plenty of beer.
Oh, wow. Well, there you go. I'm proud of you. So, hey, before I forget, you notice I had the new promo included at the very beginning of the show. Please go check out Kayla's podcast, A Little Wicked. Yeah, we love sharing these podcast promos. We need to get ours out, Mike.
Yes, we have a couple of podcasts that
we have a few of them. Yeah, that are
yes.
waiting to receive ours, but we have yet to
Right.
get around to making it.
Yeah.
Man, we're just professional at times, aren't we? But
Yeah, well,
yeah, go check it out. Help spread the word. Man, the paranormal podcast community. Let's all join together, Mike, and help promote all of us. How's that sound? So
that's right. I agree.
I'm all up for it. I'm all up for it. And before we dive into the topic, Mike, if you don't mind, Mike had another emotional day, but you're good. You're good. But you had to say goodbye. Good. You had to say goodbye to another friend today.
I did. Beautiful, wonderful Doxy had for a few years, and she got very old and worn out, and she was done.
Yes.
She had been failing for quite a while, and she went totally blind. I'm pretty sure she was mostly deaf. She wasn't sleeping. She was kind of wandering around, and then she got to where she was just going around in circles and, screaming out at nighttime, or if she gets stuck in a corner and just screaming, and it just was heartbreaking. So she went in today, and they gave her a shot to make her sleep, and she slept very quickly. And after that, gave her the shot, and she was gone very quickly, very quietly, peacefully.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And Mike, in all sincerity, it was the right choice. Like as we've talked about, her quality of life was disintegrating quickly, but on a positive note, maybe she's going to hang around with that damn ghost cat of yours now.
Before she went, I told her come back whenever she felt like it.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
It's well, again, as if you're new to the program, and if you couldn't figure out by the title, Paranormally Zone, that's what we focus on. We focus on all things paranormal, as I said at the beginning, unexplained, odd, and mysterious, including, we're talking aliens, UFOs, cryptids, mysteries, all stuff that we find that we're passionate about, that we find
The freaky and the creepy.
the freaky and the creepy. Absolutely. And my co-host with the ghost, Mike, has led a very paranormal life. Longtime listeners know that his current residence, ding, there it is, ding, 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 ding.
Dang it. My bell got caught up on me and hit me.
Mike wholeheartedly believes that his ghost cat is residing in his current residence.
Absolutely.
And I still think, you have to go check out our Patreon page. I still think we might have caught the ghost cat on audio, Mike, when we were doing that Ouija board session.
Mm-hmm.
No joke. It was very, very odd. Very, very odd.
Yeah.
Let's get this out of the way. If you enjoy the podcast, if you enjoy the Paranormally Zone, man, I guarantee you will love our Patreon page. That's no joke. I hate doing the salesman pitch. I really do not find myself very comfortable in that setting. It's a necessary evil. But again, it's a whole, Mike, I'm not exaggerating when I say it's a whole separate Paranormally Zone podcasting world over on our Patreon page. We got exclusive episodes. Again, if you enjoy this podcast, you get this exclusive episodes plus a hell of a lot more. So much other cool stuff. Video, audio. The list goes on and on. I won't waste your time. Try it out for as little as $1 a month. You won't regret it. The benefits are there. We'd love to see you. Give us a shot. No obligations. Try it out for a month. You don't like it? Don't stick around. Give it a shot. Chances are you're going to enjoy it. So,
well, we hope so.
We hope so. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Oh, and another thing, my day started this morning. I killed an animal.
And
I did, and I didn't like it.
You're going to leave it right at that?
It took a big chunk out of my car, too.
Okay, yeah, please. Okay, Mike unfortunately hit a deer with his company car. His company car.
Well, with my company car, hit this deer, and boy, I was able to keep going after I stopped and whatever, but and then I could hear things like dragging on the ground on the road, and it was actually like light fixture pieces and wires.
Jiminy Christmas.
But there was some kind of deer fur that was really embedded into the car, into the paint of the car.
I bet. My gosh.
So hit pretty hard.
Yeah. So Mike jokingly said when we were texting earlier, he's like, "Yep, I started off my day killing an animal, and I ended my day killing an animal." It's like, oh, come on, you didn't. No, you didn't kill your dog. I
did not.
You put her to rest peacefully and comfortably.
Yeah, it was a positive thing.
It was a positive thing. Speaking of that, Mike, and we got a cool story to share tonight, and we're going to share some ideas about ghosts lingering in basements and attics. And it's like, why would a ghost?
Why is it that they do that?
Yes, and or do they? We have so many ideas.
Or do they?
So many ideas and theories about that, opinions, I should say. So we're going to be sharing those throughout and after I share this particular pretty darn freaky as hell ghost story. Before that, Mike, and I'll say this as briefly as I can, I had a very, very strong dream last night, and I'm not going to waste people's time. I'm not going to waste anyone's time because I know how boring it is when people talk about their dreams. But it was strong enough, Mike, that when I woke up, I felt comforted, and the more I thought about it, the more. Well, I don't want to say confused. Well, I'll just describe it briefly. I'm not
sure.
Long story short, my dream involved the dog that we had back in the late 80s through the late 90s. That was my mom's dog. Absolutely, she adored that dog. I adored that dog. And my beagle buddy, who I had for 16 years, who I had to put to sleep 4 years ago already. I can't believe that was 4 years.
Yeah.
Both of these dogs showed up in my dream last night, Mike. Talking, well, I'm doing talking, air quote talking, messaging, sending their thoughts. I don't know what the hell they were doing. to my mom saying that they were all right and everything was good. Now, longtime listeners know that sadly my mom's husband passed away this last summer, and she's felt that she's maybe received some signs from him every now and then since then. And I'm trying to connect the two here with the dogs. I'm like, if this was anything legit, or if it was anything other than just a plain silly dream, Mike, what do you think this possibly could be, if it is at all paranormally related? Is it just a silly dream that passed through my brain? It was very, very potent, Mike. There was nothing silly about it, except both of these dogs are in there telling me and my mom that they were okay. And these dogs are like my two favorite dogs of all time. I don't know. I don't know. Could it be nothing? Well, more than likely it's nothing, but I don't know.
Well, it's nothing if that's the way you accept it.
Well, I don't accept it, but I'm just, I don't know. I'm curious as to your thoughts.
Well, it's, I think it's your dogs that are really trying to communicate with you that, since you did feel the way you did about them, maybe they figured that you would actually, you would lend more credence to what they have to, put to you as an afterlife and dreams of the departed coming back to tell you that they're okay. Have these dogs been on your mind at all lately, or that's
the thing that
just happened?
Well, particularly the dog Sammy. I hadn't thought about Sammy for seemingly forever, and just it was such a random appearance, particularly teamed up with Buddy. And they were, it's like, were they teaming up together in the doggy afterlife and saying, we need to send Patrick a message here, they will call me, whatever they want to call me. And so it was intriguing, to say the least. So I don't know if it was anything more than just a passing dream, or
maybe
something
Mick
else.
Put them up to it.
Hey, there you go. That's a great way of looking at it. Yeah, Mick was my mom's husband who recently passed, and maybe Mick's having problems for whatever reason getting his message across, and so he's like, "Hey, doggies."
Yeah, give me a hand here.
It's interesting.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways you could look at that, but
absolutely. So I mean, again, nothing spectacularly weird, but could be. What do you guys think? What do our listeners think about dreams such as that? It was very, very potent. That's all I will say. The way it made me feel. So
well, and the stronger the dream is, and the more real it was, and the more it's something that you remember so clearly, that's also a sign of it being an actual happening, an actual event.
Very true.
And not just a dream.
Well, Mike, without any further ado, can we dive into a spooky ass ghost story?
Yes, I would love to.
All right. And it's not just spooky, it's spooky ass.
Yeah.
But a ghost story nonetheless. And an allegedly true ghost story.
Allegedly.
Now, this ghost story revolves around a woman named Jackie.
Jackie.
Okay. Jackie had rented a bungalow with her 2-year-old son and her baby daughter. Now, they lived there for about a month when she began hearing strange noises in the house. Those noises, she noted that those noises appeared to be coming from the attic, okay? And as listeners to this episode know, I titled this Ghost in the Attic, so you see where this is going. Of course, like most people, she ignored the noises. She kind of just, I guess, pushed them aside, thinking that they could be any number of reasons for these noises.
And that's their first mistake.
Well,
usually.
Sure. I get you. Well, like Mike, if you moved into a house and you started hearing weird things, you personally, how you would you go like automatically right to it's a ghost, or would you sit there and legitimately try and explain it away as something else?
Well, I would try to see if think about what it might be, because I do that.
Oh yeah.
Whether you call it debunking or whatever, because before you want to get excited about it being something paranormal, you don't want to get excited for nothing, so you try to figure it out.
Mm-hmm. Now, Jackie, as I said, she wasn't necessarily poo-pooing the stuff, but she was just, figuring it was just house noises of any number of explanations. But she couldn't shake this eerie feeling that she had, that she was not alone in the house. Jackie eventually hired a 16-year-old girl to babysit her children. And one day, when they were in the kitchen, they noticed, this is where it starts getting interesting, they noticed glowing lights floating near the trap door in the ceiling, the trap door to the attic. You see all these glowing lights floating around there. That would be kind of a little off-putting.
Right, just kind of around the outside of the trap door.
Yes.
Just kind of
just lingering, just floating
around the door itself.
Right.
Okay.
Now Jackie says that she grabbed her camera and told the babysitter to start taking some pictures. Now, as soon as the babysitter, her name was Tina, looked through the camera lens, she claims to have seen something that absolutely...
I'm talking Tina, and I don't like you.
Yes, that's exactly what
that's
happened.
from Twilight Zone episode.
Oh, it is?
It is.
Oh, my gosh. Okay, I thought you were just being...
I'm talking Tina, and I'm going to kill you.
Okay, that's terrifying.
She told that to Telly Savalas even.
Telly Savalas even?
Yeah, and he still had hair at that time.
Holy cow. Wow. Anyways.
Anyway.
Now, when she looked through the camera lens, she claims to have seen something that absolutely terrified her. And so much so that she screamed in horror and dropped the camera, and they both ran out of the house.
Mm.
The babysitter, upon asking what she thought she saw, she says that she saw what she described as a ghostly image of an old man with a face that looked like a skeleton. So a very gaunt old man.
And where did you say they had seen this?
Through the camera lens. When
Okay.
when they went to go take pictures, she saw it through the camera lens, which is interesting, Mike, because you don't necessarily have to. Well, you and I have experience in this. You don't
exactly.
You don't have to look at pictures you've taken. You just have to be looking through said device to perhaps maybe catch a glimpse of something that you wouldn't see with the naked eye. So that's very interesting. I mean, what is it about these devices that we have, Mike? Even back in the day, just your simple Polaroid cameras, you could be looking through them and all of a sudden you see something like, hey, there's Uncle Harry in the background. Didn't Uncle Harry die 10 years ago?
Is that Uncle Harry, or it kind of looks like cheesecloth?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Or both. I'm not sure what it was. Uncle Harry did like cheesecloth.
Well, that's what they used to use for spirit photography.
Gotcha. Okay, understood.
Way back in the day.
Understood. You are an educated man when it comes to paranormal history, and I did not know that. I honestly didn't know that. So you got me on that one. Now, Jackie, one day she went, she's still trying to live her life. She was out shopping one day, and when she came home, she walked into the kitchen and found something very creepy on her refrigerator. And, say what you will about all these messages. You hear them in horror movies, ghost stories. It's always the classic, get out and all that stuff. And she claims that when she got home, she has kids. And so she has a bunch of those magnetic letters that you stick to the refrigerator. She claims that when she got home from shopping, the words have been, or letters have been arranged on her refrigerator to spell the phrase, get the hell out.
Really?
And again, she had very, very young children who could not spell at that point. And they're more than likely with her anyways at this time if they're being babysat.
Unless Tina was babysitting.
Unless Tina decided to do that, that's right.
Yeah.
Now, this unnerved her. This scared her so much that she couldn't sleep. She was wide awake all night, and she kept a watchful eye over her kids because she was starting to feel very, very nervous about what the hell's going on in her damn bungalow. But now, in the middle of that night, Jackie says that she started hearing loud breathing. Now, how creepy would that be? Just... I went
Stop
like that,
Patrick.
Sorry, was that titillating to you?
Titillating.
Oh, God.
It was scantily titillating.
Oh, gross. No.
When you started breathing like that,
Just stop.
I was
Stop. Don't
reminded of.
Don't stop.
Enough of that.
Yes, I agree.
Of you
Computer Mike.
telling me about your pierced
Yeah.
nipples.
Enough of that. Enough of that.
Aye.
Enough of that.
Yeah, I agree.
That's enough of
I
that.
agree, Computer Mike. Enough of that. So, damn it.
Sorry.
No, this is fine. No, so after hearing, like, this claiming to hear or thinking that she heard this loud breathing, she went down the hallway looking for the source of this breathing. And when she opened the door to the spare bedroom, well, she was horrified with what she saw. She says that she saw an old man, old man,
Like they had seen. Yep.
sitting on her son's bed. That I would, we talked about shitting pants earlier tonight before we started recording.
We did. That's as far as we need to go with that.
Now, Jackie was so terrified that she grabbed both of her kids, ran out of the house again. Now, she couldn't exactly afford to move out of the house, and she was, as most people do, a lot of people who have these crazy paranormal experiences, she didn't want to tell anybody about it because she thought they would mock her and think that she was going nuts.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that's a really difficult situation to be in all sincerity.
Well, yeah. If they can hardly believe it themselves, even though they're seeing it, and they don't normally believe in that kind of thing, they're going to automatically think that everybody's going to think that they're crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Have
you had, Mike? I mean, briefly, have you ever felt awkward telling your ghost encounters, your paranormal experiences with people?
I never have. I've always enjoyed sharing them, and so many people have asked me to share them.
Sure. Yeah. Okay.
And I usually, I used to start by saying, it's up to you to believe me or not. All I'm doing is telling you what happened, and believe me or don't believe me, that's perfectly fine. And then
because it's your truth.
Go from there.
It's the truth. I mean,
Right.
it's your truth, and whether or not they choose to believe it is totally up to them. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. Not try to convince anybody of anything.
No, absolutely not. Now, the next day, Jackie was trying to resume her normal life as much as she could. And again, you can imagine, just the sheer anxiety that's going through her at this time.
Trying to get back to normal in life as much as you can in her home.
In her home.
Yeah.
In your home. I mean, how unnerving, unsettling is it to feel unwelcome in your own home?
Right.
I mean, where do you go? Where's your safe sanctuary? Now, she was in the kitchen. She was washing dishes, and she then claimed that she thought she saw blood covering the rubber gloves that she was wearing when she was washing the dishes. She quickly pulled off her gloves, but noticed that she didn't have any cuts or any wounds on her hands whatsoever. Then she says that when she looked around the room, the kitchen, she claimed to have seen blood pouring down the walls, Mike.
Now, you've heard that in other stories.
This is getting pretty dark and pretty deep pretty quick. I do not know how the hell I would react at that. I truly do not.
I would freak out on that even.
Blood pouring down the... Yeah, that's saying something. That's saying something. Now, again, that night, Jackie woke up, middle of the night, as though she was feeling that she thought that someone was holding her down. She was basically having like a night terror. She felt frozen. She felt paralyzed. She felt a weight.
Sleep paralysis.
Sleep paralysis. She felt
was it sleep paralysis or was it ghostly, cold, dead hands?
She felt she couldn't breathe. Again, she felt like that weight was on her, and she thought she was going to die. But then, out of nowhere, all of a sudden, it was gone. And she was able to move. She was able to sit up. And again, she grabbed her kids and again left the house. But they have to return. Where is she to go? She returns to the house. But this time she returns with paranormal investigators. The investigators proceeded to set up cameras all over Jackie's house. And they were informing Jackie of all the supernatural, allegedly paranormal experiences that they had experience that they had gone through that they had captured. And when they were talking about this, Mike, all of a sudden, all the lights in the house shut off. Okay? Or in the bungalow, I should say. That might be a bit unnerving. Again, unnerving is the word for the night. The investigators suspected that, I guess, whoever or whatever was haunting the house was angry that the investigators were there. Then the lights came back on. One of the investigators then decided to go straight up to the attic and take some pictures. This is where it gets even creepier. Climbed up through that trap door where they had seen those floating lights earlier on. The babysitter had seen those floating lights earlier. And the rest of the team decided to wait for this particular investigator and see what the hell would happen. Well, he's up in the attic. Downstairs, the rest of the investigation team hear a horrifying, blood-curdling scream coming from the investigator up in the attic. Now, Mike, if you were the investigators, if you were part of the investigating team and you heard one of your partners screaming, how would you react?
I'd start laughing.
Elaborate. Why would you laugh?
I wouldn't. I would definitely, anything could be happening, whether it's paranormal or not. If there's a blood curdling scream, you want to make sure the person's okay.
Well, of course.
So
a thought just ran through my mind. If that was Mike up there, if Mike went up there and I was part of the investigating team that was waiting downstairs for Mike's return, and all of a sudden we hear a blood-curdling scream, my first thought would be he's playing a freaking joke on us again. Because that's what Mike does.
Yeah. And that would probably be going through my mind even before I got up in the attic.
I think so. Yeah, we'd have to, do like a body search for you to make sure you're not bringing up whoopee cushions and all that good stuff to just throw us off our trail. So, but after they heard this, after they heard the scream, the investigator actually fell through the trap door for the attic. And he claims it's something that tried to grab the camera out of his hands. Just when he was saying that, they heard the sound of someone walking around in the attic. That gives me chills just thinking about that right now.
Right.
Just hearing those footsteps, that movement up in the attic. And even though there was nobody there, the investigators actually grabbed the camera and left. Wow. So they were very, very, I don't want to say unnerved again. They were moved in a negative way, so much so to get the hell out.
They ain't no Tangina Barons.
Stop saying that. I know. Well, they took the camera that they had bought. Hey. So,
hey, they had a store-bought camera.
Damn it, would you? Anyways. Now, two other investigators, Mike, decided to go back up into the attic with flashlights and separate cameras. Again, the rest of the team waited down in the kitchen for these two investigators to return. Again, all of a sudden. That sounds like Zach Bagans' favorite phrase, by the way. Do you notice he says that so often in Ghost Adventures? All of a sudden.
Yeah.
He says that just, all of a sudden, wait a moment. Well, this time, instead of hearing a scream, they heard a loud snap. And then the investigators started yelling and screaming after hearing the snap. When the investigators came back down, one of them was choking and gasping for air and, get this, had red marks around his throat. He claimed that something had attacked him in the attic. Mike, what would you be thinking at this point if you were either A, the one who was attacked, or one of his investigating partners? What do you think?
Raccoons.
Raccoons in the attic. Okay.
Or very large squirrels. No.
All righty.
No, that'd be terrifying. If something is going to physically cause harm and do that, you got to rethink the whole thing.
Great.
Seriously.
Points. Great way of saying that. Yeah. Cause you're like, what are we getting ourselves into?
Exactly. It's not just a simple little ghost hunt or, taking a K2 and a spirit box into a dark room. I mean, this is just a whole nother level that you really need to think if, are we equipped for this? Are we, knowledgeable enough for this?
Mhm.
Are we ready to deal with something like this on our level?
Mhm.
You know, and then after that, you call Father Joe in, and you know,
Now, and you're not talking about Mr. Show, my brother, either. So,
oh no,
yeah, I would be like, okay, get everyone out of the house, all living beings, all forget your worldly possessions, and we're gonna burn this place down to the ground.
yeah.
And then
Father
you can
Joe
sue
and
me
Sister
later.
Mabel, get them over here quick.
There you go. There you go.
But I know you'll recognize this story, but it was an episode of something on TV, and I cannot remember what show it was, but it was quite a while ago, where their investigating team was up in the attic, and the story was that somebody had hung themselves in that attic years and years ago, and the cameraman, I believe it was walking along, and all of a sudden he started screaming, and he was actually hanging from a nail from something that was around his neck. I don't know if it was a part of his clothing or something that I can't remember, but do you recognize that story?
Gosh, that sounds familiar, Mike. And I will say that
And they had it on camera.
this story was featured on a program called Paranormal Witness. I don't know if this is
That could be.
I don't know if this is the same story. I'm trying to think if I remember the show Paranormal Witness. I do not know off the top of my head. Does that ring a bell, Mike, to you? I feel ashamed that I'm not pulling it.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I really don't.
It
was quite a while ago, though.
I keep thinking Paranormal State, and that's not it.
No. Paranormal Witness would be more likely.
I think, yeah. So, I mean, maybe it's the same case. I do not know. Now, after this event, Mike, when the investigators look through their cameras and see, to check out what they had actually picked up, again, they were horrified. One of the pictures, one of the investigators had an old rope around his neck, like a noose, as if he was being choked. Now,
yeah, see, that's crazy.
Again, Jackie and the team basically they just left the house after seeing these photos.
Sure, yeah. You gotta realize when you've been beat and you just can't.
What pops in your mind for? I mean, the story isn't over yet. What pops into your mind first when you think of an image such as that? And let's think about it. One of the investigators has the red marks around his neck. Claims he's choking. He's gasping for air. And then they look at these pictures and they see this noose. So are there such things as phantom nooses, Mike? Any number of things like that that can actually physically, or that still physically affect the living? I mean, what is going on there? Is it just our perception of this negative energy that's just happening? It's like, is it imprinted?
Well, the only phantom noose that I've ever heard of it or read about, and it could have been on one of those shows again, but his name was Jaime Nussbaum, and he was a ghost that had lived in this attic. Jaime Nussbaum.
No, I was glossing over that one. So,
it was. It's like I saw Patrick's eyes go dead there.
Because, like, for a split moment, I thought you were going to be serious, but then the moment I realized,
the more serious I sound,
yep, I'm like, that's not serious.
That's when I'm really putting my poker face, voice, and whatever on.
Yeah, go help Jaime Nussbaum. Yeah, okay. Now,
sorry,
the story, the story essentially ends there, Mike.
But it's fascinating though, and that actually sounds so much like that.
And, the fact that everyone who's involved in this, investigators and the family, the babysitter, they stand by their story. They say, yes, this place was flippin' haunted. It took place in San Pedro, California, way back in 1989. And as I said before, the victim, her name was Jackie Hernandez, and this story was featured on Paranormal Witness. So talk about a creepy ass freaking story, Mike.
Yeah, and that sounds so much like what I was talking about with that cameraman that was up in the attic.
It has to be. Yeah. Listeners, help us out if we're getting another story mixed up with this one. But again, Mike, we were kind of joking. Jaime Nussbaum aside. So exactly. What's going on with the red marks again, we're just speculating. We're not experts. We're going to put forth our opinions, our thoughts here. What the hell is going on there when the image of the noose is picked up on camera and the investigator has red marks and around his neck and is choking and gasping for air? What in God's name is happening?
But yet after that, there was no noose to be found. It was just
nothing. It
was picked up on the camera, and then the red marks were there.
Yes.
Wow. I mean, that's, yeah, it's got to be a possibility. I mean,
I just got chills thinking about that, by the way. I
absolutely
literally got chills.
You could be laying in bed and it's like there's a ghostly butcher knife that's hanging above your head all of a sudden.
Oh, good.
And then you are found the next morning with a stab wound in your forehead, but no knife.
No. Right.
You know,
I mean, this world,
seriously,
this world itself is terrifying enough.
Wait, yeah, the real, the physical is scary enough, but when you got stuff like that happening, that you don't know where it's coming from, you don't know where it's going to come from, you know, or when.
Is this something? I mean, we're talking about, you know, for one last take, we're diving into time slips, and we're going to focus on the Moberly-Jourdain incident,
which is an awesome story.
Oh God, it's fascinating. You know, Mike, is this somehow some freaky, dark example of going in and out of dimensions, where that veil is so thin,
right,
where that negative imprint, that negative energy is so strong of whatever actually happened in that attic. And if you go up there, you're risking the chance of going into that, for lack of a better term, dimension and facing the consequences.
Just long enough for that moment,
right,
to have that happen.
Or is this an intelligent force that
demonic?
I was waiting for it. I know Mike is very hesitant, literally hesitant when it comes to talking. I'm getting all muffled here, or mumbled, I should say, because when it comes to talking about demonic stuff, Mike is not so much. You're coming around, Mike. We've been doing this for years,
and I do bring that up and mention it as a possibility to be discussed.
Absolutely.
You know, whether I totally believe it or not. I mean, you with something like that you cannot figure out, everything has to be looked at, everything has to be thought about, and every angle needs to be.
We briefly brought up Zach Bagans earlier, but I'll bring him up again. He would automatically jump to the conclusion that it's demonic.
Absolutely, yeah.
And you know, and a lot of people, that's a touchy subject. A lot of investigators kind of get irritated when that is brought to the forefront without, you know, really, I don't want to say doing a deep dive, without even thinking about anything else. Your first thought is like, it's demonic. I know, Mike, you've said several times on past episodes when we were the Alternate Route podcast, you thought that, well, and again, you're coming around, you're changing your mind a little bit. You thought, well, there's assholes in real life. We all have souls and spirits, and we move on. So why wouldn't they be an asshole in the afterlife?
Right, and that is something that I have thought, and I've actually heard of paranormal investigators or professionals have discussed that also. So it's a theory. It's
an absolutely terrifying story, and I hope Jackie has recovered emotionally
and found peace.
Mike, do we need to take a time traveling excursion before we go to one last take, or are you good for about, I don't know, a few more minutes? Or
I'm good for a few more minutes.
Okay, good. Because I wanted to ask your, I guess, opinion, and let's go back and forth here. This is kind of a pre-one last take to our official one last take.
Sure.
Why do so many ghosts, Mike? And now I'm going to be kind of the skeptical geek here.
Okay.
And I'm not doing it in a mocking way. But I'm going to play devil's advocate, so to speak, for for skepticism. Why the hell do ghosts linger in attics and
Or
basements.
do they?
And graveyards and deep
And basements.
yes, as I said, basements and deep
Oh yeah, cellars, subcellars
cellars, deep dark caves
in the walls.
I mean, what is it with areas that we already, without any pre-thought of paranormal spookiness going on, we ourselves are already kind of creeped out by deep, dark, dank areas like basements and all, so on and so forth. So why do we associate with ghosts? And
maybe it is our own psyche that does it. Maybe it's the the creepiness that we feel of these dark areas that, especially like attics and places that we don't dwell in. You know, it's more of a we go up there in the attic when we store something, or like in my attic, I don't go up there at all because I don't go up there. I mean, there's just a small hole to get up there and no room to get things up into the attic. And the basement, I don't go down there very often because it's just a dungeon down there. Well, you know, you've been there, and and our listeners have seen that.
Yes, they have.
But
Patreon listeners.
Exactly. But maybe it's the creepiness that we feel from these places that we don't spend a lot of time in, that they're dark, and we give it that energy to be haunted or to have some thing there, or from our own fear and from our own thoughts about these places, give it that energy. Because, you know, why, if a ghost, if a person lived in a house that they loved for many years, they died, you know, why would they be in the attic? Why would they be in the basement? I mean, it doesn't make sense. Why, like on so many paranormal investigation shows we see, they're going in crawl spaces under the house.
Right.
Why would they be there?
Yikes.
Unless
I know
sometimes you see that they've dug up bones and things. You know, that's a different story.
Right. Bodies
But,
buried
you know,
down there.
Why would there be an entity, you know, crawling around in crawl spaces or in these, you know, or that I don't understand.
And again, we've had discussions about this, Mike, where, and I think our listeners are probably agree with this or think along the same lines. Obviously, we're talking ghosts here. We're talking another dimension. Everything that we understand as physical beings right now as humans, we are very limited by our physical surroundings, by what, you know, by not only our physical being, but long story short, ghosts don't go by our laws, you know.
Absolutely. Yeah.
What we consider an attic could be an wide open space for all we know.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, good point. It could be a portal to that dimension.
Right.
Another dimension. Or like you said, it could be, you know, what we see as a dark, dank basement or a crawl space in another dimension. It is just a totally inhabitable place, or habitable.
Yeah, and it's something that
however.
I know what you're trying to say.
Yeah.
But it's something that we physically can't comprehend. And so,
Right,
I mean,
yeah.
we're interpreting it as only we can.
As only we can in our dimension. Correct. Yeah, that's a good point. I like that.
So, but that being said, I really liked what you said as well about our psyche almost creating the hauntings. You know, I'm doing the hauntings in air quotes. You know, I mean, fear could be strong enough, particularly if it's a negative fear. If there's a negative imprint up in that attic, then all it needs is for enough people to be, I'm going to sound corny, enough people to be afraid of it to really kind of bring it out. You know what I'm saying? It's
absolutely.
We're here. If there's,
it's
there's
energy that it's fed to it.
Right.
Fear is that energy that it just might need.
Have you been, Mike, when you were a little kid, were you creeped out by attics and basements?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was too.
A little bit.
I was too.
But although I remember when I was very, very little, in a place where it had a creepy basement, and I remember the basement stairs, they didn't have backs on them. So it's like when
Right,
you
I
were
know what you're
walking
talking
down
about.
those stairs as a little kid, it's like you had thoughts of hands coming out and grabbing you and stuff. And
I'm there with you,
Um,
man. Absolutely.
so there was that creeped me out. But then the main part of the basement didn't bother me so much because I remember playing down there by myself with like some Tonka
sure.
trucks or my Major Matt Mason or stuff
Absolutely.
like that, or Gumby, and
I got
just
I
sitting
know.
down there on the floor and down there by myself. But if I went beyond that into the back part where like the laundry was, it was always so dark. And then you had to, if you went back that far, you had to walk past the underneath the stairs.
Oh, God.
And that freaked me out.
Yes.
So yeah.
No,
And it was such an old place, an old creepy,
Oh, I hear you,
but-
man. I hear you. I was the same way. I mean, I loved hanging out in our basement, but I was creeped out by it at the same time. And we had the same, it was a very narrow staircase with no
Mhm.
backs to it. I mean, it was very steep, I should say, steep
Yeah.
and narrow. And it was, I didn't enjoy walking down there.
Yeah.
But when
yeah.
I'm down there, it's like, hey, this is cool. But
Yeah.
it's at the risk of repeating ourselves, Mike, I do truly believe there's a possibility that we create this ominous feeling, this ominous atmosphere on our own. And
Yeah.
if there is something there that is not of this world, it feeds off of that, and it makes it even more so.
Yeah.
And yeah, man, that I guess that's all we can say about that for now. I mean,
Yeah.
ghosts in the attic, ghosts in the basements. My goodness, pure creep factor.
Yeah. And you know what else really feeds on the fear
Hmm.
and materializes and feeds on is the demonic.
There you go. Yeah, absolutely. And this
You know?
particular story, if there is any demonic story that has truth to it out there, this would be one of them. I mean, chances are just the violence, Mike, the attacking people, essentially trying to kill them.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, that's, to me, pure evil. And if you want to call that demonic, then it's demonic. But then again, that opens up a whole nother batch of questions, Mike. Like, why would there be satanic presences? Well, not satanic. I hate using that term. Why would there be demonic, pure evil from the depths of any dimension out there? Why would it linger in an attic? I mean, again,
There's an aspect of evil everywhere, no matter what.
there is. Absolutely. That's a good way of putting it. There is. Unfortunately, It's an unfortunate true fact.
Yeah. I mean, there are very specific places where it cannot exist, I believe.
Well,
But that's a
yeah,
whole different story too.
It is. Well, Mike, let's wrap this one up. Let's actually take our time traveling excursion now. Thank you for hanging in there for the last few minutes. I could go on and on about this, but it's time to move
absolutely.
on to one last take. We got a good one. One last take. The Moberly-Jourdain Time Slip Incident. I can't wait to dive into this and get Mike's one hot take on this one as well.
Yeah.
So it's going to be good. So hold
Absolutely.
on, boys and girls. We're going to time travel and be all right. Back. And we have returned from yet another successful time traveling excursion, Mike. And speaking of time traveling excursions, wow.
Yeah. This is like the grand mammy,
Oh, man.
granddaddy.
The Moberly-Jourdain incident. Now, Mike, before we dive into this, while we were time traveling, we were kind of,
You didn't step on a butterfly, did you?
no, I did not.
Depending on how far back you
Oh
went.
my gosh, don't even start with that. But we did discuss how we wanted to tackle this. And we had mentioned earlier before we started recording that I shouldn't say we had mentioned. We were discussing your recollections off the top of your head from this, about this particular incident. Because I'd say earlier this week when we were deciding on topics to cover for one last take, I asked you if you're familiar with this, and you said, oh yeah, I am fascinated with that and I love it.
Yeah.
So kind of elaborate on that a little bit, Mike. I mean, just off the top of your head, what comes to
Yeah.
your mind when it comes to what first comes to your mind when you think of this incident, and when were you first made aware of it?
Well, when I believe I was a teenager or a young adult, I can't remember. I had a book. Well, I had, just so many paranormal books, and I've had many that were short stories of paranormal events. And I think that's where I first read about this. And it was many years ago, and very fascinating. I was fascinated with it the more I read about it. The first time I read about it, but it was these two ladies in the early 1900s. I think we decided it was 1901.
Yes, that's what it was actually.
And
yes.
they went on a trip to Versailles. They went to the Palace of Versailles, I believe.
The Royal Palace. Yes.
The Royal Palace. And touring through the palace, everything was normal and fine. But when they left the building out into the gardens to tour the gardens, it's like they walked out of the palace and into the 17th century.
Right. And when you were first reading this stuff, Mike, I mean, I know how you feel about such things. Were you taken aback by it? Were you skeptical of such a thing, or were you a believer like immediately?
I was just fascinated in that. And to me, I was reading a true account.
Sure.
That's how I was taking it as I was reading it.
Right.
And
I'm sorry, listener. I'm distracted by Mike. He's dressed up like he's in Antarctica right now. He's got like 5 layers of clothing.
My extremely old house with the extremely cold temperatures and wind chills outside right now
he's got
blow right through my 140-year-old windows.
After our next time traveling excursion, I'm expecting to see Mike with this shawl around his head.
Hey, funny you should mention that, because when I was coming back from the bathroom, I told Mary, I feel like wearing a shawl over my hoodie. Yeah, I did. And then she said, well, there's another hoodie. So,
oh, man. So, yeah, every time we come back, Mike, the less and less of Mike I'm seeing, I'm just seeing layers of clothing.
I need a thicker scally. I need a winter scally. I think the house here, it has like horsehair for insulation. I think I seriously do.
Mike, all you need now is a ski mask on, and with your glasses put on over the outside of it.
And look like that in Gremlins, that one gremlin that.
That's right.
That's what I'd feel like anyway.
Well, this is an utterly fascinating topic.
Oh, yeah.
As is labeled in the title, we're talking about time slips. Now, what is a time slip? You may be asking. Well, chances are you're listening to this podcast, you know what a time slip allegedly is. It's basically a paranormal event where people travel through time through events unknown to them, essentially. They're not even through, some sort of paranormal aspect that is causing them to travel through time.
It's when Pluto, Venus, Jupiter, and the dog star align up correctly
one
long line.
That is exactly right. You have to wait for those perfect alignments in order for this to work. So it's utterly fascinating. I said that earlier. Time slip, time warp. Is there a difference? I really do not know. Mike, do you ever think that you've had a time slip? I know. I'm saying that jokingly because I wanted to kind of answer myself real quick.
Okay.
It's not a time slip at all. It isn't. But it's, again, I'm playing.
I have mind slips.
Well, sure, all of us do. I'm playing devil's advocate here. We've all experienced this more than likely, making long road trips, Mike.
Yes.
And you're staring at the road. You do this every day.
Sure. I can do it for many, many, many miles.
Yes. And again, not a time slip, not even close. But it's, I'm kind of laying the groundworks here for a possible explanation. Not a likely explanation, but being the skeptical one, I guess, just kind of putting that out there. You're driving along the road. You're driving, hours at a time, Mike, on a straight shot. It's like me driving back home from your place from Enderlin. It's like literally like a straight road forever.
Yep, that's North Dakota.
But any hoozle, you're driving, you're listening to a song on the radio, let's say you're in particular town A. All of a sudden you start daydreaming a little bit. Before you know it, you kind of quote unquote wake up and you're an hour down the road without even realizing it.
Right.
What the hell's
That's
going
true.
on? I don't know if that's some sort of weird hypnotic event that's going on right there. I'm bringing that up, Mike, as a odd example. I admit it's odd, but possibly is this some sort of explanation for these alleged time slips? Okay, that being said, Moberly-Jourdain incident, as Mike said, 1901. I'm gonna bring out my trusty notes here.
Mm-hmm.
You can hear them. Charlotte Ann Moberly and Eleanor Jourdain making a train trip to Versailles to visit the royal palace. Now, these were well-educated women.
Very professional,
they
educated.
were absolutely. Charlotte Moberly was a principal. Eleanor Jourdain was her assistant. She eventually became the principal after Charlotte Moberly stepped down or retired. These people were not known for flights of fancy. They were well-grounded, respected.
Doesn't mean they were buxmy. They were just well-rounded.
Oh, come Jesus.
They have hips.
Okay, hold on. The computer mic found that funny.
Oh, when you said hold on, I thought you were gonna delete that.
No, I'm not. I'm not. Maybe I should. If anyone's offended out there, I apologize for not deleting it. So,
yeah.
anyways, but they had a crazy experience, very crazy experience, which was
one that I would just be excited to.
Oh,
If that happened to you and I, that would be like. Could you imagine that?
I can imagine it, and I would be freaked out, I think. But
it'd be awesome. I'd keep you grounded.
No, yeah, you would. And when I say freaked out, I'm not saying that I would be losing my mind, but
Yeah.
I would be.
You wouldn't be doing the curly shuffle and spinning around on the ground going. Whoop, 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 whoop.
I would definitely feel weirded out, if that's a proper phrase. Weirded out, like what the hell just happened? Like having an unbelievably strong moment of deja vu, which has weirded me out before, Mike, to the point where I've actually texted you, for God's sake.
Yes.
When I've had these moments, super strong moments of deja vu, and I text Mike immediately because I feel like I'm not of this earth or something at that time.
Yeah.
Something is going on. I'm just like, I don't like how I'm feeling right now.
That was a movie from 1952. Not of this earth.
Not of this earth. So, any
Weird, wild things.
Well-educated, well-respected, professional women that claim to have experienced this. Now, Moberly-Jourdain recounted that they had decided to visit the Palace of Versailles, as we had mentioned, as part of several trips around Paris. Back in 1901, they also said they remembered not thinking much of the palace after touring it. So they said they decided to walk through the gardens to, I'm going to butcher this, Mike, the Petit Trianon. Does that sound right? Petit Trianon. But
I just looked at that. Now I got it right here. I got Trianon.
Petit Trianon.
Les fantômes du Trianon, les fantômes de Versailles.
All right, if you're listening in France right now, we apologize.
Yes. Yeah. My name is very French. I am not.
Yes.
I'm proud of my French heritage, the little bit that I got. But yes, anyway, carry on.
So after not thinking much of the palace, after touring it, they decided, as I mentioned, decided to walk through the gardens of the Petit Trianon. But after reaching the Grand Trianon, found it was closed. That was the big one. I can understand
the
the
little
word.
and the big.
I understand the petit and the grand.
La Petit, la Grand.
Yes. So like Mike, I'm the petit and Mike's le grand.
Thanks, yes. Mike La Grand. Patrick Petit.
Petit. Yes, petit. Man, that's like
La
my
fromage, la Pierre, la pont.
that's like my WWE wrestling name. Patrie.
Yeah. You're in that that special category of wrestling.
Yeah, they have the heavyweights, the middleweights, the lightweights, and the petite.
And the Patricks.
Yeah.
La petite.
I'm in the petite. Yeah, the petite.
Translated, tiny Patrick.
Yeah, I get it. Okay, enough. Now.
La petite Patrick with the squeaky voice. Petite.
Okay,
Anyway, go ahead.
enough. Okay, all right.
I was on a roll and I didn't know where it was going. And
Now, Charlotte and Eleanor, after visiting both the Trianons, Petite and Grand, they recollected traveling with a Baedeker guidebook, but said they became lost after missing the turn for the main avenue. And I'm going to try to pronounce this: the Allée des Deux Trianons. I do not know. I apologize. Des Deux. And entered a lane where they bypassed their meant for destination. That's when Moberly then reported that she claimed to have seen a woman shaking a white cloth out of a window, while Jourdain recalled noticing an old deserted farmhouse, outside of which was an old plow. At this point, they described a feeling of oppression and dreariness. After which men, who they thought looked like palace gardeners, told them to go straight on, just keep going on, nothing to see here, keep going on, essentially. Moberly then described the men as, quote unquote, very dignified officials, dressed in long grayish green coats with small three-cornered hats. And that was in quotes there. Jourdain recalled that she noticed a cottage with a woman holding out a jug to a girl in the doorway, describing it as a tableau vivant, a living
holding
picture.
her what out to a girl in the doorway?
A jug, Mike. Jug.
A jug.
Yes, singular. Jug.
Okay, well,
Get
your
mind out of the gutter for once. Describe. Now, have to reset myself here now. Describing it as a tableau vivant, a living picture, much like Madame Tussauds waxworks. Waxworks. I apologize for that one. Moberly did not observe said cottage, but remembered that she felt the atmosphere change around them. This is another quote that she wrote down. Everything suddenly looked unnatural, therefore unpleasant. Even the trees seemed to become flat and lifeless, like woodwork and tapestry. There were no effects of light and shade, and no wind stirred the trees. Now, that's something I wrote down earlier when I was watching a clip about this, where in my trusty notes, where they said that it seemed like they were walking inside a painting.
Right.
There was no shadows and no sun. So that's very interesting.
And I remember, when I was reading this, that being fascinated by the way they were describing that. As you're saying that and reading that or talking about it, I'm remembering it, and I was trying to figure out or try to understand just what they meant and what they were going through, and why would it be like that. But it's like, well, you ever seen the series? Well, probably not. You were probably too little at the time. But Tales from the Dark Side.
I was too petite. Yes.
Yeah. It's like where things are just slightly less lit. It's like another dimension where these tales from the dark side.
I totally recognize the name. I want to say I've seen some
Great
of that
series. I loved it.
Did they do like a reboot of that? That maybe I watched.
I don't know.
Maybe I'm thinking of Tales from the Crypt. Maybe I'm thinking.
Yeah, I think they did it. They did that, but
okay.
But yeah, it was. So were they? Did it? From what I was listening, did they both kind of have different perceptions at different times of what they were seeing and feeling? Right.
Which is interesting because they had similar perceptions and they had different ones too. And
right
after they had went through all of this, they had they went like a week before they discussed this.
Right.
And then they decided. Then they decided to compare notes. Basically, they decided let's write down what we both think happened. And then they went. And
remember that now. Yep.
Then they went and compared their notes. Well, let's go on here, Michael. I want to get through
one other thing that he would mention that I thought was really interesting and that I didn't remember was that the one of the characters in this other dimension or whatever it was acknowledged them.
Right.
Like they saw them as well.
Yes.
The gardener.
Absolutely. Well, like I said, I mentioned earlier when they were telling them, like, they met that guy who said, like, basically keep going.
Nothing to see here. Keep going.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Now, moving forward here, they then went to report sorry, let me rephrase that. They reported reaching the edge of a wood close to the Temple de Ayamur. Is it Iamur or Ayamur? I'm not sure. And coming across a man seated beside a garden kiosk wearing a cloak and a large shady hat. According to Moberly, his appearance was, quote unquote, most repulsive, its expression odious. His complexion was dark and rough. Jourdain noted the man slowly turned his face, which was marked by smallpox. His complexion was very dark. The expression was evil and yet unseeing. And though I did not feel that he was looking particularly at us, I felt a repugnance to going past him. So they didn't like they didn't like seeing this guy. They felt wrong. They didn't want to go near him or past him. They said then that another man, whom they described as, again quotes, tall, with large dark eyes and crisp, curling black hair under a large sombrero hat, came up to them and showed them the way to me, the Petit Trianon. So,
wow.
Moberly said that she noticed a lady sketching on the grass who looked at them after they crossed a bridge to reach the gardens in front of the palace. She later described the lady as I'm reading this now if you can't tell. She later described the lady as wearing a light summer dress and a shady white hat with much fair hair. Moberly reported that she thought she was a tourist at first, but the dress appeared to be old-fashioned. Moberly came to believe that the lady was none other than Marie Antoinette. Jourdain, however, did not see this. Now, at their return to the palace, they reported that they were directed round to the entrance and joined a party of other visitors. They said that after they toured the house, they had tea at the Hotel des Reservoirs before returning to Jourdain's apartment. Now, that's the gist of the story.
You know, what's strange is that, you know, as they're taking this walk through the gardens, there were people from that other history or dimension that were kind of interacting with them and guiding them along and like, go this way. Like, how many times has it happened before where these characters were there and have seen this often enough from different eras? Even
gosh. Yeah, right.
That they see these people that come out the door into the gardens. They're not from their time, but these people are there to direct them which way to go, and then they'll end up where they need to be.
Do they seem like ghosts to them? You know,
it could be. You know, it's
and again, you know, this was in 1901, and just if you're curious. Marie Antoinette was the last queen of France, married to Louis XVI, the last king of France. They were both guillotined, beheaded in 1793. And so this is over 200 years later when they're claiming to have seen the spirit of Marie Antoinette.
Yeah.
Now, and we're not going to get into history lessons as to why they were beheaded, guillotined. Let's get into the gist of what the hell's going on here, Mike. Just opinions, just thoughts. One last take. If you had to choose, Mike, what are you leaning towards? Time slip, time travel, interdimensional breakage of the veil? I guess that would be a time slip. Utterly paranormal in nature, where it was just a mass haunting. What the hell is going on here in your thought? Like the first thing that pops into your head. It's a tough one.
First thing that pops into my head.
It's a tough one. I know it is.
Well,
it could
I don't know.
anything.
I think it's an orchestrated time slip. Orchestrated.
What do you mean by orchestrated?
Planned.
Well, I know what you mean.
Organized.
Okay. Planned by who?
Well, that's a good question, but let me put it out this way: an orchestrated time slip, leading people through a time tour.
A time, like a tour of time, a tour of
a certain time,
okay,
of a certain era.
Okay. I'm trying to wrap my head around that.
Because it just seems like the way these characters were set up, leading them along and directing them where to go, and they were passing by certain people that affected them in a certain way. Very specific people, like the guy with the smallpox at a kiosk or whatever.
Yes.
The gardener that told them to move along this way, nothing to see here. The possible Marie Antoinette
ghost.
It's just like these characters, they're along the way of this walk that these ladies are taking.
Are these characters, Mike, as you're referring to them as, are they trapped in this singular moment in time?
God, you wonder, because
it's
like they've experienced people coming by before, or like at least the gardener did, seemed like that.
Right.
And then the ladies reacted to these other characters, the ones that they both experienced or both saw.
Or is this literally, as we said earlier, a slip through time, where every event that is happening to these characters, as you labeled them, Mike, the gardener, the man with smallpox, the women, is every occurrence unique to them, or are they unaware of what the hell is going on because every incident is unique? And we're talking about time right now, Mike.
Mm-hmm.
How many times has this happened to them? Is it infinite? Has this happened? I mean, has it literally happened an infinite amount of times, where if you just hit that perfect physical spot, you're on that tour, you and I could, let's say that you and I could do this time slip, Mike, if you hit that perfect spot.
Right. Things have to be the right, set up just the right way.
I'm sounding like a complete buffoon right now. I hope to God my point is getting across a little bit. I'm grasping at straws. I'm trying to be clear, and I don't think I'm being successful.
Well, it's hard to grasp your mind around. I mean, what we need is Mickey Okaku.
Oh, good Lord!
To explain this to us, he would
silver-haired fox. Yes, sir.
If he could explain this to us like a young child,
and he'd have
coloring with crayons.
He'd have to. Yes, he'd offer us like ice cream bars. Just to continue listening to him. Now
while he's explaining it to us, you and I would be on each side of him, stroking his hair, feeding him grapes.
Well, I'd spray his hair with conditioner, and then you'd brush it. I'd spray it, you'd brush it. I'd spray it, you'd brush it. So.
Yeah. And then you would dab a little bit of Old Spice on each side behind his ears.
Dabbing more spots than that. Wah, beta bong. Anyways, I'm kidding.
And we just have great
we love
and respect for the guy, and we joke about it like that. But
talk about a dream guest, Mike. I've said that
absolutely.
so many times.
Absolutely.
Now, I have to share a couple of possible explanations from this, non-supernatural explanations, before we give our last takes, okay? Now, a non-supernatural explanation of these events was proposed by Philippe Julien in his 1965 biography of the aristocratic, decadent French poet Robert de Montesquieu. At the time of Moberly and Jourdain's excursion to Versailles, Montesquieu, I'm butchering it, I'm sure, lived nearby and reportedly gave parties in the grounds, where his friends dressed in period costume and performed tableaux vivants as part of the party entertainment. So this guy says that supposedly they might have just walked into a party, a dress-up party, Mike.
Sure.
That's
But then again, why would they have the feeling of that they did of like it feeling like there's no sun and
There's no sun, no shadows.
it's like this drudge, whatever.
Absolutely. They said it was just this ominous feeling. They felt like they were in a painting almost.
Yeah. And they didn't even experience the exact same thing throughout the entire thing. That I don't buy one bit.
Listen to this ridiculous explanation. I hate even reading it, but you have to. In a review of the history of the Moberly-Jourdain adventure and the extensive public reaction to it, Terry Castle noted, with skepticism, the claim that a shared delusion, now listen to this, may have arisen out of a lesbian folie à deux.
Jeez.
I have to click on that to make sure I know what the hell that is. It says
just when they said the explanation has something to do with lesbianism,
yes,
I'm like,
then you're out.
Get out the room. Get out.
Folie à deux, whatever. Mike is literally interpreted as folly of two or madness shared by two. Also known as shared psychosis. And of course, this idiot, has to throw in the lesbian part of it. Like that has anything to do with anything. So, wonderful critique there by Mr.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense to me.
Mr. Terry Castle. I'm going to pull up Terry Castle here. He was born in 1953, and he's an American literary scholar. Oh, he sounds very scholarly to me, doesn't he? Oh, Terry
Big bonk
Castle.
on that one.
Yeah, but we have to throw these out there.
Oh, of course. I mean, if they're out there as something that people have come up with, as for part of the discussion, we want to hear what people come up with.
A shared delusion may have arisen out of a lesbian folly of two between the two women. Castle concludes that when all proposed explanations have been considered, a core of mystery remains as much in relation to the psychological dynamics of the pair as to any aspects of the paranormal associated with their story. So listen to that. A core of mystery remains as much in relation to the psychological dynamics of the pair. So he's basically calling them nuts. And he's saying they're crazy lesbians. That's basically what he's saying.
Infuriating.
Isn't it, though?
Yeah.
Good golly, Miss Molly. Psychologist Leonard Zusny suggested that incident was a quote-unquote hallucinatory experience that was elaborated upon over time by information Moberly and Jourdain gathered after the fact. Now, they did write a book called...
In 1911.
1911 called An Adventure, and I believe they published it under different names. I guess I'm not published it, but they said, like, the title of the book was written by characters almost. You know what I mean? Like, they didn't share their actual name. Brian Dunning of Skeptoid.
Oh, there we go.
Concluded.
That's pissed me off even more.
Concluded that Moberly and Jourdain were simply human and were mistaken. He notes that editions of An Adventure, their book, were embellished each time they were published. And inconsistencies in their memories were apparent. He gives an example. He says, in the second edition, the pair wrote that Moberly did not mention the sketching woman to Jourdain until 3 months after the visit to Versailles, and Jourdain did not remember such a thing. In contrast, Moberly did not remember much of what Jourdain described. It was only after much discussion, note sharing, and historical research that Moberly and Jourdain came up with the time period as 1789 and assigned identities to a few of the characters they saw, including Mary Antoinette herself as a lady sketching on the lawn. So again, this guy's saying it's false memories, elaborations that are going on the more and more the book is published. Yada, 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 yada. So basically, Mike, for the most part, it has been debunked and not debunked. It has been kind of tossed aside as, well, what I just read.
Yes. Well, I think what my take on it is when they were touring the palace, there is one part of the tour where they were they stopped for a snack that was given to the tourists, and it was ended up to where it was a slightly tainted small petite bowl du tapioca.
Oh, that damn tapioca.
And
yes.
yeah,
Okay.
so
okay.
and yeah, like the
So Mike, you're
little
blaming.
tapioca beads were just a little turned.
So Mike's blaming tainted tapioca on this
Yes.
whole incident. So
Yes.
well, Mike,
And they had a little maraschino cherry on top, and that somebody
Well, yeah, you know what?
somebody in
Okay.
the okay, never mind.
Yeah, okay. We need to wrap it up here. We need to. We
Yeah,
need to get.
I was
we
gonna
need-
roll on that one.
We need to give our one last take, Mike, quickly.
Yes.
Quickly and to the point. What we think this is all about. We didn't really give it as much justice, but that's a lot of times our one last take is just us spitballing. We give you the background of the story, and then we just riff on it. So,
Mhm.
Mike,
Great.
the Moberly-Jourdain time slip incident. One last take. First off, do you believe it actually happened? Do you believe it is paranormal in nature? Are you skeptical? Where do you sit?
Well, there's, if it's not something that is entirely made up, which, is a possibility,
Mhm.
These two ladies could be, just very creative, or what I like to believe, since I am into the paranormal that much more, I would like to believe that it is something paranormal, that they did have a time slip, because I do believe that can happen. So did it happen as an actual time slip and they went back? Let's see. I am going to give it.
Yes, that's right. We have to give it. This is what we do on One Last Take. 1 through 10. 1
Right.
being for this one, Mike. 1 being nope, it's a hoax. It's
Bunch of bull.
it's a bunch of BS for whatever reasons. 10 being absolute legit. Where do you sit? And don't say you sit on a chair right now. Where are you at?
No, that's a stupid joke.
Oh, yeah. Mike never says stupid jokes.
I would. Oh man. I don't want to go too low. I don't want to go too high. I cannot give it a full 10, but I'm going to give it a 7.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's still kind of high,
That's
but
still pretty high. That's still
and
pretty
it's
high.
part of it is because I want to believe, and
Right,
part of it
of
is because
course.
I believe it can happen.
And you know what? It's a lot of times me personally, and I think you're the same way, Mike, we get tainted in a sense just by how frustrated we get with how people toss these alleged accounts aside. They're pseudo skeptics, Mike. They don't do
Absolutely.
any amount of research into it, and they just basically say you're a psychotic idiot, or like that one moron said, Terry Castle, where they're lesbians, so they're going to
Yeah.
be wacky. That's essentially what he was saying.
Sure.
Which is that guy just needs to go to bed and go away.
Go to bed and go away.
In that
What
order.
does that mean?
Well, just in that order, I shouldn't say, or not in that order, I should say.
I mean, I like it, but it just didn't make sense to me.
I know it didn't.
So,
Well, it's usually like if someone is harassing you on the twat or something on the Twitter or whatever, and they're saying something, just retort.
nobody harasses my twat.
Yeah,
I don't let it happen.
just retort by saying, go to bed. Like, basically saying, you're being childish,
Right,
or
sure.
you're impossible to deal with right
Yeah.
now. So just go to bed.
Give it up and go away.
Right. Now, that being said, and you know how I feel about pseudoskeptics, Mike, and
Yes, we both share that.
they
yes.
drive me nuts. The one thing that makes me think that this possibly could be real, and I've thought about this for a while, and it could be a simple explanation. Now, I might be silly right now. Is just the fact that this happened in 1901, and if they were in this purely for profit, it took 10 years before they had a book.
Right. Yeah.
published.
That doesn't quite fit.
Think about that for a second. 10
Mhm.
years. Now, were they trying immediately after that and it just took 10 years to get a book out? Maybe. But from what I
Did they share
understand-
the story in 1901, or did
Well-
they not share it until 1910
Well, again, Mike, I mean, just the fact that they didn't share it with each other.
or 11?
They didn't share it with each other for a week afterwards. They didn't tell
Right.
anybody about their unique experiences.
Hmm.
That makes me think as well, right there. It makes me think that they were trying to wrap their heads around it.
Sure.
And
They're trying to figure it out themselves.
yes. So if they had totally faked this, if this was pre-planned as a hoax,
Hmm.
why would it take them a week to get back together to talk about
Sure.
it? I know
Sure.
that sounds. Maybe this is a weak argument on my point. Maybe it is. But you would think that they be, let's make sure we have all our P's and Q's lined up. We're going to get our story straight. We're going to make sure our discrepancies are lined up as well, because you're going to say this, and that's going to be different than mine.
Right.
You wait a week, you're going to get things screwed up.
Right.
But just the fact that 10 years between their story, the alleged story, and the fact that their book came out then adds a little, makes me wonder.
Hmm.
1 out of 10 for me. 4.
Sure.
So
I can understand that.
I'm leaning towards it not actually being some wacky, crazy time slip. I
Mhm.
want it to be, Mike, and I'm open-minded to it being.
Absolutely.
But I have to say 4. And I would give it probably even a lower rating than that, if not for assholes like Terry Castle and their
Right, exactly.
lesbian folly crap that he threw out there. So,
Exactly.
yeah, 4 for me, 7 for you. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, what do you guys think? Let us know, listeners, please, what you think about this incident. I mean, it hasn't gone away. This is over 100 years old. Well
Yeah.
over 100 years
Well
old.
over. Yeah.
I
I don't know. I've always found it fascinating, and I still find it fascinating whether it actually happened or not. It's if it's not real, it's a wonderful flight of fancy.
It is. And again, I give it that 4 just because of the fact also that these were well-respected, well-educated
Oh, sure.
women of stature at the
Mhm.
turn of the century, 1901. These were respected people. Why would they
Yeah.
risk their status at that point? Why would they risk being demeaned and lessened and having their reputation tarnished?
Oh, yeah, for their careers that they had. I mean,
Absolutely.
they couldn't,
the reason-
especially being women at that time.
Absolutely.
They could not jeopardize their
Mhm.
their careers.
And just because I said that, Mike, I'm raising my total to 5. 5 out of 10. 50-50.
Well.
50-50 for me, man.
That's awesome.
So,
50-50 is good.
yes.
It's very good.
Well, Mike, I think this was a great episode. Thank you, buddy. This has been great.
Well, absolutely. I loved it. I hope everybody else enjoyed it to
Please
at
let
least
us know.
some kind of a degree.
Please let us know. And you know what? Again, no joke. We know you'd love our Patreon page. Go give it a shot for
Yes.
1 month. It's a whole nother world of paranormal, awesome Patreon content. We guarantee you'll enjoy it so much, so many benefits. And
Well, don't guarantee it, because if they paid $1 or $5, then you're going to have to pay them back if they don't like it.
well, that's true. Well, we highly suggest,
Yes.
or I won't even say
We
that. So,
we hope that you enjoy it to the best of your ability.
there you go.
And we are going to do our best of our ability,
Our ability.
to make it enjoyable for you.
Mhm.
Do we guarantee that you'll love it?
Nope.
No. But we will
But you know what,
certainly
Mike?
do our best.
One thing we can guarantee is that we love putting out the Patreon content.
Hell yeah.
It is so much fun for us. And speaking of that, we are going to dive into another Patreon exclusive episode right now. You're not going to miss this one. This one's going to be
Yeah.
fun.
I got to go to the bathroom first.
Oh, of course, Mike. Of course. It's going to be fun. We're going to laugh our asses off. I'm sure lots of dirty words and all kinds of
Yeah,
good
we
stuff.
we,
is gonna
we
be-
let loose a little bit more on the
oh,
Patreon.
oh, God. Just a little bit.
Speaking of our French,
just a
episode we
wee
had.
little bit. Go leave
it's
us
a wee bit of Patreon phone.
Go leave us a positive review on your listening platform. It helps tremendously. Mike, what do our awesome listeners, all of you are awesome. We love all you guys. What do they need to do, my friend?
Let's see. I have four choices that I have to make about what they have to do And the only one that I can come up with as the correct one is "Please love me." Oh, no. That was my third choice.
Good
The first
Lord.
one is "Peace out."